I am Bon French. Dick Newmiller and I were friends for life, really. He was 21 years older than I was. He was born in 1931. And we met when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old in Peoria. Our parents were best friends. We discovered we liked trains together. We did our first trip together to photograph trains in August of 1961 on the Santa Fe at Edelstein and Chillicothe. And we made about 30, over the next 50 years or so, we made about 35 trips to every state in the country and Canadian province to photograph trains together. And his health went downhill. He passed away in 2015, and for a few years before that, his health went downhill, and I inherited his slide collection, which was very unexpected. In 2007, and I've since digitized all of the slides, which numbered 82,400 slides. And these are just the railroad slides. I didn't inherit the rest, but he was an avid photographer. He belonged to the Peoria Camera Club, won a number of awards for photography and not just of trains. So he started taking photographs in 1950 when he was 19 years old, using Kodachrome film, which was reasonably new at the time. And those images look as good today as they did 70 years ago. So it's been a real treat. Newmiller is sort of a Germanic name, and he was an extremely detailed and structured and well-organized person. And the benefit for us and posterity is that he labeled every one of his slides. So we have not just the year, but we have the exact day and month that they were taken. We have the location. We have if it's a passenger train, the name of the passenger train. He often put the f-stop and shutter speed on each of the slides as if we needed to know that. And on the top of the slides, he had a color coding system so we could tell if it was ASA 10, ASA 12, ASA 25, ASA 64, that type of thing. So we have a lot of information about the collection. This is a two-part presentation. I have 165 slides, and I'm going to get through them in about an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 30. So you can't make it that long. There's a bathroom outside, but we should finish at 2:30 at the latest. This presentation was put together for the Burlington Railroad Historical Society. They had a meet in Peoria 2 years ago, and they wanted me, and since Dick was from Peoria and I grew up in Peoria, he wanted me to put together a presentation that featured a lot of early railroad photographs in Peoria. And then the second part is it was all Burlington Railroad photographs, many of them Galesburg. Dick went to Knox College, in the late 40s and early 50s, and so he obviously was here and photographed a lot of trains, the Burlington and the Santa Fe in that time period. The last thing I would say, and I should show you a picture of Dick, is that he loved color. And when he started photographing, most everybody photographed in black and white. And very few of his images, early images, have been published because magazines wouldn't take color photos. Not until the 70s and 80s were they really accepting color. So the other good thing about his interest in color was as diesels replaced steam engines, many rail fans and photographers put their cameras down because they didn't really like the diesels. They were upset that steam was disappearing. But steam engines were all black. And Dick got more excited beginning in 1950, post-World War II, when the railroads were rolling out not only the new diesels, but their new streamliners with beautiful color schemes on the passenger trains. And so he not only got excited about photographing all the new color schemes in terms of the diesels, but also the rear end and observation cars and things like that. So it's been a great legacy. This is a picture of Dick in Kansas. This is east of Liberal, Kansas, near the Cimarron River Bridge, and we were out on one of our trips there. And Dick and I went with a number of other people. Believe it or not, all these people are standing on level ground. Dick was a pretty tall guy, like 6'4". In the back with the sunglasses is Bob McMillan, who's retired, but the prior president of the Toledo, Peoria, and Western Railroad. And the short guy in the front is Paul Stringham, who lived his life in Peoria and was quite an historian and a lifelong friend and rail photographer of quite note. This is Peoria, and it's the rail lines there are informed by the topography of Peoria. It's very hilly, and the rail lines had to go up various valleys and around various valleys. There were Santa Fe, which isn't pictured here, the Transcon, which just goes east and west, if you will, across the top of this page, had their Edelstein Hill, which was about a 1% grade and the steepest grade east of the Rockies. Rock Island had a hill going up to Peoria Heights. Emmett St. L had a hill called Maxwell Hill. TP&W had a hill called Glassford Hill. Santa Fe, Pekin Branch had a hill up to Morton. The Nickel Plate had a hill to a place called Crandall outside of Morton, and the Chicago Northwestern had a hill called Pioneer Hill or Randall Hill and so forth. So there were, believe it or not, 14 railroads that came into Peoria in 19 lines. So it was, there was a cornucopia of things to photograph there. So what we're going to do is start as if we were on a rail fan day in Peoria with trains in the north, and we'll work our way to the south here in our presentation. So this is a Chillicothe. This is 1957. We have 3 FTs coming off the Illinois Railroad Bridge coming into the Chillicothe Yard. And Dick, again, was, I think, a really good photographer, and you can see he used framing elements in terms of the signals here and composition and giving the photographs in depth with things in the foreground and things in the background. Again, you see the switch lamp in the front, and this is a 1957 photo of an H-1044 with cabooses. Chillicothe was a crew change point, a division point, and at the time, the conductors had their own caboose, and not only did they change crews, but they changed cabooses on all the trains that went through there. This is a 1957 photo of the Grand Canyon with 3 Alco PAs on the front, going by the original Santa Fe Depot and division headquarters in Chillicothe. That burned down, I think, in 61 or so. Then this is how I think of the Santa Fe. This is the Santa Fe Super Chief coming eastbound with 5 F7s and a westbound with 2 GP20s in the photo. This photo was taken in 1965, and I remember, as you know, I would have been 13 years old then, but going to Chillicothe, watching trains and coming back to Peoria, and there was a hobby shop there called the Signal House, and Mr. and Mrs. Luger ran the Signal House, and I was telling Mrs. Luger how excited I was about going to Chillicothe and seeing the trains, and she said to me, "Bon, why would anyone ever go to the Santa Fe? They run nothing but F units and GP20s. I went, okay. And I've never forgotten that, because of course I think the same thing now. But oh, why would anybody want to go out and photograph the BNSF with all the 1,000 GE units? But things do change. So anyway, this is nothing but F units and GP20s. All right. Was a crew change point, so this was interesting. In mid-crew, you know, they stopped the trains, except for the Super C. They stopped the trains to change engine crews, but they didn't stop the trains fully to change the crews on the caboose. And here they are, getting off on the fly while the train is moving by. And so there was a guy getting off and a guy getting on, and he did caught him in mid-footstep, both men. All right, that that's me, actually, at 9. This was on our first trip in August of '61. And we had seen this freight train come down Edelstein Hill earlier in the morning. And Dick was there really to photograph the passenger trains, and the freights were considered actually Lucky Strike extras. These GP20s were built in 1960, so in '61 they were basically brand new power. But there I was, absorbing the whole thing. These are FTs coming around Houlihan's Curve. It's a famous place. It's still a great place to photograph trains. But this was taken in August of '57. So it's incredible how sharp the image is and how durable the Kodachrome film is, that it's, basically close to 70 years old, and, a perfect image. But, as I said a minute ago, it wasn't always F units and GP20s. In 1968, there was some brand new FP45s coming down the hill with an eastbound Super Chief number 18. You'll notice the pole lines on both sides of the track. This turned out to be good for photographers in the sense that meant that the Santa Fe and every other railroad kept the brush clear under those pole lines. When those pole lines disappeared, which was like 30, 40 years ago, the roads let the brush and the trees grow up. And I've gone to this spot now and stood right here. It's in the woods. There are huge trees. Even in the winter I've gone. There are huge trees that are several feet around. And you really almost can't see, and certainly in the summer, you can't even see the tracks from this spot. But in the winter, you can kind of see through a forest of trees and woods. So the vegetation has grown right to the right of way. So, it's possible to take this photo again. It's just, I should just say, it's just about a half-mile walk up from Houlihan's Curve up the hill. And this was taken also in 1968, a brand new U-28CG and U-30CG from the Santa Fe Road Bridge with the westbound Grand Canyon train number 23. And this is again from the Santa Fe Road Bridge, which I thought was just a spectacular vista. And, because you can see the barn and the road, looking west and the grain bins and so forth. So I just really enjoyed this. Today it's a tunnel of trees on both sides. Now, from Route 40, looking west at Edelstein, was this telephoto shot. And I thought it was a great image. Dick has a whole bunch of photos of this train, but the reason I put the photo in is where the engine is a bridge, and that is in that valley going north and south is the Chicago Northwestern. And here we are looking north at the Chicago Northwestern. This was taken in 1975, and Dick often took a sequence of trains, and I didn't put them all in, but I did this day for this presentation, and it was a fun place to watch trains. I was in the Scouts and the Eagle Scout actually, and we would get permission, my friends and I, from the farmer that owned the land on the other side of the tracks to camp there. We would spend 24 hours camping overnight and counting how many Santa Fe trains and Northwestern trains and taking some pictures there. So it's a favorite spot. This is the top of Pioneer Hill, near Pioneer Park of a meet on the Northwestern. This was taken in 1980. Two SD-45s waiting to go north. The Northwestern is left-hand running, and so the train on the left is headed north and waiting for the southbound, which is rolling through here. So it becomes single track north of here. Now down at the bottom of the hill, the M&L came, and St. L. In the middle was the CB&Q, and just to the north, again, all one next to the other, was the Chicago Northwestern. The Chicago Northwestern bought the Emmett St. L. in 1960, and for a while it ran as is, but by the mid to late 60s, the Bartlett Yard was abandoned and torn up, and many of these lines were subsequently abandoned in part or later in fall. Over at Edwards is a Burlington train coming in from Galesburg going to Peoria with two FTs on the front and F7s behind. And as they went down the hill, this is where the three tracks come together. The Burlington track would have been going across the diamond, parallel to the Northwestern train. The Emmett St. L. line at this point was connected directly to the Northwestern, since they owned each other, and that's a Northwestern train. It's called Oliver Junction. And at that same location, there's a Burlington train coming out of Peoria, a coal train going to Galesburg, with a U-25C and a U-28C. And on the far left is the Northwestern Bridge, the middle is the Burlington Bridge, obviously. And on the far right, you can see the trestle with no rails on it. That's the Emmett St. L. line. This picture was taken in 1972. A little further down Kickapoo Creek was the Northwestern line going over Kickapoo Creek and the other railroads. This is a train coming out from St. Louis area through South Pekin, and then going up north to Nelson, and then on the main line either to the east or the west there. And underneath the bridge, you can see several rail lines there. And in fact, where it looks like a gravel road was the Emmett St. L. track, and then the next track is the Burlington track, and the next track is the Northwestern track. And this is at the roundhouse, or Quonset hut, at Bartlett Yard with two Emmett St. L. GP9s, and this was taken in 1960, April of 1960. So Dick must have known that these birds were merging and about to disappear. Emmett St. L's nickname was the Peoria Gateway. And there's one of its cabooses, which I thought was a great shot. Nice sun angle in April, it's not too high, so you can see everything illuminated there, including the trucks underneath. And behind, again, is the two tracks. The one in the middle is the Burlington, and the one upper one is the Chicago Northwestern line coming into Peoria. Emmett St. L. was a pioneer in piggyback, but this looks like a model railroad. You know, PBQ, piggyback quick. And so they set those trailers off to the side so they wouldn't get banged up switching in the yard. And these short little trailers on converted flat cars was very early piggyback operation. Again, this is 1960, so it's 65 years ago. But again, this looks like some of the cars I have on my model currently. But here it is in real life. And this is looking north from the engine terminal past Bartlett Yard, and there's the Northwestern Bridge at the far end. At the top of Maxwell Hill, Dick caught a train coming into Peoria, and I put the sequence here. It has several F units and a GP9 in the front, and this is just west of a little place called Bellevue, which is still there today, along Route 116. And then this is later, not much later, the train came into Bartlett Yard. That was their office building and headquarters for the division. And this is Route 29 or Southwest Adams going over the top. And Dick, the engines uncoupled from the train, came closer. Dick is standing at what's called Iowa Junction or PT Tower, photographing this. The reason it's called Iowa Junction is way back when Emmett St. L., Minneapolis, and St. Louis was the Iowa Central Railroad before it became Emmett St. L. And so Iowa Junction was because it was the So, whirling around the same day, Dick caught this Northwestern train coming into the Peoria Yard, going under Southwest Adams on Route 29. The Burlington tracks in the foreground, and the St. L track would have been behind him to the left. And these are 3 GP9s, and you might go, oh, wrong. But in 1960, these units were built in 1959, so these GP9s were essentially brand new power, only a year old. Okay, this was a lucky strike day. This was basically from all, the same spot. This is a TP&W train with one of their 2 F units in the lead and an RS2 behind, going by PT Tower, or Peoria Terminal Tower. Peoria Terminal was a subsidiary owned by Rock Island that went from Peoria to Pekin, and this is the PT track that's closest. The Burlington is the curving track that goes past the towerman who has the orders there. TP&W is coming off the PMPU track, where it had trackage rights to get through Peoria, and then on to the Peoria Terminal track and its own track a few miles further south at Hollis. And Dick followed it down the highway. This is Route 24 at this point at Bartonville, and then Colby. This was taken again in April 10th of 1960. There's a little more activity here now because Kid Junction put a shop building here and several tracks, and that's where it comes in. This is the Y. You can barely see the track there by the middle to the going to the upper right that goes to the Mapleton Caterpillar foundry, and that Y is still there today. Back to PT Tower, Dick photographed 2 RS-11s coming by the tower, which is a good image of the tower and the train. And the St. L coal car behind is not on St. L tracks. This is the Northwestern Adams Street Yard where that car is sitting. A lot of St. L coal coming off their line was interchanged to the Northwestern. And again, the operator is hooping up orders to the guy in the caboose, the TP&W, and exchanging pleasantries. And I'm sure the TP&W train wasn't going very fast, but I thought this was, pretty interesting since neither one had to stretch too far. The conductor didn't even have to get out of his seat, and he got his orders from the towerman. Now this is 1980. 2 SD40-2s with an empty coal train taken from the Southwest Adams Street Bridge. And this is essentially how this looks today, even 45 years later, but it's a scrapyard on the right, and the Adams Street Yard of what's now the Pacific. On the right, scrapyard, on the left. PT Tower would have been partway around the curve there if it existed, and this is still the location of Iowa Junction. The reason I put this in, of course, this is just the same train going the other way. All that in the background where Interstate 474 entrance and exit ramps are now was the location of Bartlett Yard. This was all where the St. L, all those prior St. L pictures were taken with Quonset Hut, division headquarters, and switching tracks and everything is there. And now this is sort of grown. This is 1980, so now in 2025, this has kind of grown up into be like a forest as well. So things change. With the BN merger, we saw a lot of unusual power on the Burlington Northern. So these are Northern Pacific F9s. They're bringing a train across on a river bridge and headed to Galesburg. This was in 1972. And in 1968, Rock Island was still very much with us, and had a lot of interchange business in Peoria. This is going by Ironwalker's distillery in Peoria, which was one of the largest distilleries in the world, and bringing a transfer of cars to the PMPU across the river. And this is the Illinois River Bridge. This was taken in 1972 with a small W7 switch engine pulling a huge train of empty coal cars. And it's obviously screening it very hard to do this. So this is Dick's son Roger in the foreground waving to the train. And from the tower steps there at the bridge, the tower is still there. There's another SW7 with a cute looking goose about to get over the river. What's unusual about this picture is that everything in the background of that picture is gone today. The PMP roundhouse is gone, the stockyards is gone, Indian buildings are gone. So this again was taken in '75, so that was 50 years ago. At the Burlington Yard, two SD7s in 1966 are getting ready to head to Galesburg. It's a nice image. And this is another photo of the Burlington Yard, Peoria, a little bit later, 1977, with the GP30. Almost all these tracks are gone now today, too. Things are very much simplified. This is the Walnut Street Tower. This is where the TPW came across the Illinois River on their own bridge. And this photo was taken in 1955 with an RS-2 about to cross the Peoria Terminal, which was owned by the Rock Island. So you see the two names there on the Walnut Street Tower. And to the left is a Franklin Street Bridge. Again, itself is gone now, replaced by the Michael Bridge. And this is again the TPW's bridge and Walnut Street Tower to the left. Beautiful photo taken in 1960 with a GP7 and one of TPW's two F3s. Originally, but these were demos, EMD demo engines, and that was a B unit originally, and TPW had EMD at some point add a cab to it. So, but it's a nice image coming from Peoria into East Peoria. Now, the Illinois River can flood, and here's a significant flood that took place. Now, this is in 1962. And something else is going on here, because you can see there's